Morgan, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast and to our expert session today. So just to kind of loop the listeners in here, we are actually actively live inside of our Pop Leadership Academy, and we have a gorgeous panel of beautiful Academy members who are here joining us for this really special interview. So as I'm asking questions and we're having this interactive conversation, I may get some questions from the chat. So I'm excited to have this conversation finally, Morgan. I'm going to just read your bio, and then I'm going to have you kind of take the wheel and tell us a little bit about yourself, and we can kind of dig into your journey. So I am joined today by the esteemed Morgan Kraut Hylairides. And she's an RN BSN and the founder and CEO and injection specialist at MK Aesthetics. And she founded MK on the belief that beauty comes from the inside out. She is committed to providing patients with premier services and uses a conservative approach to treatments to deliver the most natural looking results. Morgan's philosophy is to create relationships with patients, build on trust and education, and that is so true. As a registered nurse and certified nurse injector committed to aesthetic education, Morgan has trained with some of the top injectors in the country. She is certified in Botox, dermal fillers, Juvederm, Restylane, Kybella, Sculptra, PRP, Softwave, and all advanced injection techniques. Her background as an emergency room and ICU nurse provides her with extensive knowledge of anatomy and physiology, reinforcing safety as her top priority. Morgan enjoys spending time with her husband and two girls, all things sports, and traveling when she's not at MK. So I would love that bio, Morgan. And I think I would love to just kind of start off by having you introduce a little bit about what's not in your bio, about MK, and tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Kaylee. I feel like it was just yesterday you were speaking at Elite Retreat, and I just there was something about you on stage that I was like, I need to get to know her more. So yeah, I'm located here in the really cold Minnesota, Minneapolis area, and I own MK Aesthetics. And we have a team of 10. And yeah, it kind of just goes back. I've been doing injections now for 10 years. This is my 10th year right now. And MK was birthed 3 years ago. So I started off working in a med spa, kind of the non-traditional. It was actually within a fitness facility. Most of you guys maybe know Lifetime Fitness. They had a few med spas in Minnesota. And so I started there, and that was kind of an interesting philosophy. We were kind of a commissioned employee, and they were like, I will bring in thousands of people through the door, but you need to figure out how to get them in your room. And so it was sink or swim. And that's when I learned about marketing myself. That's when I learned about personal branding, and I learned about relationship marketing. And kind of through my fitness journey, I was able to slowly kind of build, and I can go into all of this, but through building the personal brand, I actually started my own kind of side company with the physician, where we did mobile concierge services. And then slowly over time, it's organically morphed into a brick and mortar. So there's a lot of detail in that I haven't talked about, but that's kind of where we are now. And we've, a team of 10 and growing. So
that's awesome. So am I remembering correctly that you were a fitness instructor as well? And that was one of the main sort of channels for recruiting patients into your
yes.
practice, right? Okay.
So fitness is one of my passions. And what I loved about fitness was this. I love that people chose to come to my classes. They were pretty happy, they were healthy, and they were choosing to take care of their health. And so when I was back in the hospital world, I was like, something just wasn't resonating with me, right? And so that's where aesthetics has been a great alignment. But what I loved about it is every person in my class over time, organically, they knew where I worked, and I got to know them individually. And over time, a lot of those people, is a great way to market myself, became long-term clients and still are clients today. So it was a great, my energy on stage was really, really great. So I have a lot of energy.
So that's awesome. So that's quite the journey, let's talk a little bit about, now you left there, started your own practice, have MK. Talk to us a little bit about what MK is, your mission, and what your brand is about.
Yeah, so our mission is to empower both men and women to feel confident in their skin at any age. That has been my why throughout this whole entire 10 years of building. I have always clung to that. There has been a lot of darkness, there's been a lot of hard times, but when I come back to what pulls me out every time is I love people. And what I love most about people is when I meet people, somebody who radiates a confidence or an energy, I'm like, tell me more about you. Like, I want to know because I think, just also about part of this is back in my young 20s, I probably didn't have the confidence in my own skin and I was kind of struggling with some personal things. And so I look back at that younger version of myself, that girl who was broken, who had a mild, like eating disorder and who was so lost in her life. And I look back at her and she is my inspiration for where I am today. And so I know through 10 years of doing this that these services have transformed so many people. And so through it all, the peaks and the valleys, like I come back to that mission, we're rooted in it. And it has kind of been our guiding light that keeps us moving.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and I think like, look at you're changing not only other people's lives, but your own lives through this process. And I know you and I have talked a lot about that journey, right? The 10 years, it's almost like you blink and then 10 years have gone by, but every day is a long day and there's a lot of ups and downs. And, it's no secret to anybody who's here listening that, uh, entrepreneurship is a lonely journey. And a lot of the struggles that we deal with, we keep very internal. Sometimes we feel
Yeah.
shame to even talk about them. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about what we do here is we kind of normalize the unsexy parts of building a business, So I'd love to kind of just lean into that a little bit because you're a beautiful woman and have like built something really incredible, but I know that you've struggled along the way. So what are you most proud of along your journey? Can you talk to us a little bit about some of those struggles and how you've overcome them and what you're proud of now?
Yeah, I think the word that kind of comes to me is when I think of like my resilience to continue to walk through the darkness, to continue to not just sit and plant myself in it. I think I've been through broken relationships and partnerships. I've been through the kind of the loneliness to your point of like building the business, right? And there was a point 6 months in, I came home to my husband and I was sobbing. I'm like, I don't want this. I didn't want this. I don't, I just want to go back to like, I can sit in a commission-based room and do really well, right? And I think I've always been able to anchor myself and get myself back up again and continue to move. And like entrepreneurship is about who you're becoming, right? And so I think the personal development side of it is where I'm so proud of myself. Like I have loved personal development since my young 20s. And so I just think you deal with things with staff, you deal with things with gosh, there's just been so many things. I think the industry too, it's like for so long when I got into it, it was always like, oh, that's Morgan. And oh, I don't talk to her. I'm in my room when you close the door and you're on an island by yourself. Like I was on an island. I literally was like, hey, do you want to like help me do lip filler? And they're like, oh no, we don't talk to you. Like you could take my clients and then you'd go to
Like
these.
competitors, you mean, like other,
Yeah. It got to be, and I was always like, I just am not like that. I'm like, if you push somebody down to build yourself up, that is not my philosophy.
Mhm.
And so my philosophy is like, you lift people up. And as like you say, the tide rises, we all rise. And so I've been resilient in anchoring myself in that knowing within myself. And I'm like, yeah, I'm in aesthetics, but I have so much more than just aesthetics in my life. I'm so much more than just an injector. Like I'm proud of so many other things. So I think, yeah, I just have been resilient and we can get into it. Like this has been no walk in the park for me building a business and I could probably cry saying how hard it's been, but like I will continue to get back up each and every day and continue to fall down. Like it's like you're in the arena getting your butt kicked, right? And you're like, I am not interested in what you have to say if you're not in there getting your butt kicked too. But I will always, like get back up and keep going. So
Totally. I was talking with someone yesterday about that. I was like, what if I think maybe on our group session, I was just like, we would sound like the craziest people. Like, thank goodness, just entrepreneurship and like social media, the positive side of it is now you have people that are talking about like, oh, I'm having my cry day today, you know,
Yeah.
but I
Mhm.
feel like we just sometimes, if someone just like zoned in on our conversations and the things that we talk about, they would be like, what is wrong with these people? Why are you doing that to yourself? You know, but you know, it's one of those things like, and I do kind of want to go there with you because I think it really will help many people listening to this interview or watching this, but we're constantly going from this like zone of competency, like this place where we are, you know, we're highly skilled. We know, we have just instinctively intuition of know how to get clients. Like we know how to build relationships with clients. Like we, you know, building your practice and then all of a sudden you get to that point. And I think there's a couple inflection points, and one you've been going through with us over this past year. I personally know, but where you have to start to learn how to interact with your business in a different way. And suddenly you
Yeah.
go from being like this A plus, you know, you're a perfectionist anyway, but like doing everything at this like world-class level and pace to now I'm entering this zone of complete incompetency in the idea of having to now build through people, right? Which is the
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
invariable thing there is, you know? And
Mhm.
so I do think it would be just really nice to take a pause and talk about that. You know, how has that process been for you in terms of the scaling up through team?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because I think there's so much mindset work that goes into that. Like, if I come from the mindset of Morgan 10 years ago, who was just trying to build her books, who was just like, more clients, I got to make revenue. If I bring that to where I am today, it didn't work. It wasn't working, right? And that is why I needed some support and help, is to reframe and rewire where I'm at. And because up until, this past year, even like, I was like, well, if I take another client, I generate a revenue to pay my rent, to then pay my staff. That has changed, right? And so you should see how many team meetings we have. You should see how many meetings I have with my practice manager, how many one-on-ones I have with my husband, who is also a part of MK Aesthetics. And you should see how I've reframed so much of what I used to think. I feel like your social media talks to me every day, like you're in my head, right? And you're just like, I'm a million plus revenue generator. If I take, my clients only like me, they won't go see other people. And so now I get a lot of joy out of my providers growing. I get a lot of joy out of seeing my practice manager thrive. I have this like platform that I'm going to leave a legacy, because I remember some of my old bosses, right? And so I think a lot of it, what's happening with me is there's a lot of reprogramming, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm reprogramming my mindset around what it is going to be. Because if I wanted to stay, why didn't I just stay injecting in my room? Straight commission, very nice commission. I could have made good money, right? But this is where I am now. And I've had to really work on new patterns of, I am a great leader, right? Versus old pattern, you don't know how to lead, right? You don't know what you're doing. No. I can figure this out, versus like, so I think it's a whole rewiring, and it's a process, right? This isn't overnight. This isn't one day. Give yourself a ton of grace and get a coach or get in
Yeah.
an ecosystem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I know because it's funny when you say, I feel like you feel like I'm talking to you in my social media every day because this is just, we all get to that point.
Yeah.
That is why like when I personally got to that point and I was like, there is not a textbook for this. I'm
No, there's
sorry,
not.
but like my business degree did not equip me for this process of where like scaling up comes so much back to your worthiness,
Yeah.
what you're willing to put up with, how you have to set boundaries around your priorities and truly like laser focus on what's going to move the needle for you, not what everybody else is doing. You know, it's hard because you feel like everybody's going this way, and when they zig, you have to zag to
Yeah.
build something really unique, and it can feel very isolating, so I think like people who are listening to this that are like, okay, yeah, that's me. I'm confident and know that like what my value is and what I can bring to the practice by treating patient, and I'm the primary breadwinner in my practice. So I love that, Morgan, like rewire my brain. But like, can you talk a little bit more practically about like the mindset shifts in like you had to make, and what steps, like let's talk about the how. How do you get through those roadblocks?
Oh, sometimes it kind of comes down to the simple things, but I think getting through the roadblocks is, I think I always, if I continued at the pace I was going, I was going to be drowning under the water in the deep end. I always felt that I was like, so if I kind of think like in 5 years, if I continue to operate this way, we're done. Like
Mhm.
this is not going to work. So when I think that way, I'm like, so now I really have to take, you always say what's important is rarely urgent and what's urgent is rarely important. I really have to remove myself out of the crazy New York City. I need to go look at it from above, and I have to do some of those basic boundary setting and have the discipline to work on the things that are going to actually move the needle, right? Me opening my books to take more clients isn't going to move the needle like me writing a policy on employee treatments that for the past 2 years has irked me, but I'm like, I point fingers at everyone else when really it's me who needs to look in the mirror and have the discipline to work on those things. So I'm not sure if I correctly answered your question, but I kind of
Yeah, my question was bad. I'm a bad question asker. That's why it was hard for you to answer it. What I heard from you though was slowing down.
slowing down. Yes.
Slowing down, number one. Number two, I think taking accountability, like saying, like I always think like this, everything is my fault. So
Mhm.
what I made the wrong hire, I made the wrong policy, I made the wrong
Mhm.
decision, or maybe something I didn't do, right? And so the beauty of that is like we have the power to fix it or to change it or repair it or remove ourselves, right? And then the third thing was you talked about like from New York City hustle bustle craziness, which is kind
Yeah.
of like our academy analogy for like just living in the day-to-day chaos and trying to like add things to take it away. Like you actually have to like rise up to the penthouse, look
Mhm.
at everything from a different perspective. So I think the third thing was just visionary leadership, like really looking straight ahead to 5 years from now. If we were to continue at this pace, like what would that look like? And alternatively, if I have a goal or a vision for where we want to be, what needs to be put in place, and then staying focused on that.
Right.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So what does it mean to you? Well, let me first ask you this. Like where at what point we met at Elite Retreat, right? And
Mhm.
you came
Yeah.
up and you were like, I just need help. And I just remember you saying, like, I have this fire inside of me, and like I need to like it was almost like you couldn't verbalize it, but you're like, I just know there's something and I need to get it out. And like I need to unleash and just access my highest potential.
Mhm.
What is the reason that you now looking back, like tactically, like what is the reason that you sought out support and coaching at that time?
Yeah, so I think kind of going back to what I had said earlier, there was oftentimes I just felt like I was on this island alone, right, from the beginning. But also like when you start building a business, to your point of entrepreneurship, it can be very lonely, right? And so I needed what I'm the type of person when you put me in a room with people smarter than me, I'm gonna rise up, right? I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, right? And so I was like, I need an ecosystem of like-minded women, of people who are, paving a path that they've never paved. And I was ready to be surrounded by supportive people, so on top of like getting resources and like getting answers, how do you do your hiring process and all of that, I needed that support, but I really just needed like to know that I'm not alone, to kind of be able to get out of my own head, right? And kind of like navigate back to my heart of like, why am I doing this? And what's the bigger purpose here, Morgan? I always ask myself, if you're just racing to the next goal for fulfillment in your life, you're going to get to the top and you're going to just have another one that you're going to want to hit. If you just want to hit 4 million in revenue, then what's the next year going to bring you? So I think I was seeking to a deeper purpose and like kind of a different lens on like, what am I really building and why am I really here? Because I want this to be a long-term game. I don't want this to be a sprint. I want this to be a bigger long-term marathon, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. I feel like we get to this point where we look back. I mean, I'm completely guilty of it. I joke that I have like, I don't remember like my kids' first 10 years of life because I was just moving so fast through it.
Yeah.
And it's hard, it's hard. So you kind of put that out, but you can blink and next thing you know, your kid was 10 and they're 20, and it's like, and that time you can't get back. So you have to like really feel I think one, just to wake up and have joy every day, in
Yeah.
your life. And like, you don't have to wake up and feel miserable, but like enjoy what you're doing, but also look at the, look at this as like a lifetime journey, right? And not just the sprint. We're always on this sprint. So I just pulled up because I was just scribbling some notes yesterday, just some idea that came to me. And when you talk about being in the room and rising up, to like the level of the people that you surround yourself with, I wrote down that, I was thinking about people who try to emulate success. And I have women, in this academy and that I work with all the time that'll tell me like, people ask me what I did or like, what's the blueprint for that? Or like, try to, which this and that are you using? And they'll say like, I wish I could tell them that they have to go figure it out for themselves. Like that's the way that you have to actually go and like fail on your own and
Yeah.
then learn what didn't work or works. So I wrote down that, emulating success often goes wrong because we want to look at what she does instead of how she thinks. And I think that's the difference. And that's where, you're very curious and an observer and also in acting. And I think that's an important point that you make, that it's a process, right? So showing up with women in practice of, okay, I learned that, but I actually went and executed this. And this was the result of what happened. And now what, and that's the practice of becoming a better, more visionary leader, essentially. So which brings me to my next question for you. What does it mean to you to be a visionary leader of your practice and of MK?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think I kind of use the analogy, if you're driving down a road at night in the dark, your headlights are only going to show you that 150 feet ahead of you, right? But you're trusting that the road's going to unfold, right? Or you have your navigation. And so this is a new thing for me. I'll be really honest with you, Kaylee. Like for a while, I just was like, why do I have to do that? Right. And now I understand it more of like, I have to give them, like, if you don't get on a plane, not knowing your destination, right? So if I don't take the time to say like where we're going, we're all going to be rowing in different directions, not moving anywhere, right? So to be a visionary leader, it's like, it's showing them the path forward. It's getting them to get on the ship. It's getting them to row in the same direction so that we hit the correct or we're going in the direction that we want to go. And it's about like visionary leadership to me is also vulnerability. It's like showing your team that like, this is my dream. This is where and you guys are all a part of it. You all I'm not giving you KRAs just to be mean. I'm giving you KRAs because we're trying to go somewhere. And if all of us are not pulling our weight, then I might have to make decisions. But so I think that is like, to me, visionary leadership is giving them the roadmap in a way, the guide, and just getting them to like, just to get on board and get excited too. I think one thing recently I had this kind of aha moment. I was like, if I'm not showing up to my business excited and like ready to go, like how do I expect my team to, right? So if I'm showing up burnt out every day and I don't have a vision, I'm just coming here to try to make money to pay my bills, like how am I expecting my team to get behind me, right? And that's been a big shift for me this past year. And my team, I think, would take my back on that, to be like, wow, you're really showing up differently. It's because I put wood back on the spark, the flame. Like that's life, right? The flame, you have this beautiful fire, it's gorgeous, and then it kind of starts to dim a little bit. Our job as humans is to get around people into an academy where they're putting the wood back on to get you to reignite your passion and what you're doing, right? So that's where the visionary side of things has changed. And again, I'm proud of myself for not giving up, because there's times where I'm like, whatever, I'm just in one ear out the other, like mission, vision, values. And now I'm like, oh no. That's how we eat and sleep and breathe, is by those. You know what I mean?
I love that. I love that analogy too. Thank you, Morgan. That's like total mic drop right there in the chat saying passion is infectious. Yeah.
100%.
So how has this changed? Well, first, can you give an example? Because, I think like setting mission, vision, values and, casting vision and all of that, like talk to me about an example of how you've done that and what has happened.
So yeah, I think I did a lot of inner work on this of like really what is our vision and what is my values. I think the values are very important. But I kind of just went back to like what breaks my heart is seeing somebody not live a fulfilling life, right? And not like I struggle when people see the mirror and they just have nothing good to say about themselves. And so I'm always like, if that's my mission on earth, I can get people rallied around me to get on my team to help me fulfill my mission, right? I think 10 years ago, it was about me. I was like, it's all me. I want to show my Instagram famous, whatever. It is about other people. And so I think when you root yourself in a mission that's bigger than yourself, it really comes from my purpose here on earth. I believe we were put on this earth for a mission. I can go into that whole side of things, but I'm like, I know that this is what I'm here to do. What lights you up, right? Fitness, get me on stage. I will rock the room, right? You tell me that this girl's not confident and I will go talk to her and I will infuse her and infect her with my energy, my whatever. So I think your mission, your vision, is, it's really your guiding light for your team. And then it also translates into our marketing too, of like, this is who we are. You're going to choose us if you want to go on a journey, if you want a trusted provider with natural results and to get the best customer experience. That's why you're choosing us. You're not choosing me because I'm a $10 tax person and, not choosing me because I'm cheap. I am not, but I will blow you out of the water and other things if that's what you value.
I just feel like I'm gonna get like slammed with DMs. Like, is MK hiring? I want to work for her. Like this, yeah.
And I'm real, and I say if this is what you see on camera, it'll be even better in person because I struggled with the social media people who looked so great on Instagram, and then you would meet them and they couldn't even say hi. I was like, oh, like be like even better in person. Like I want my clinic to be even better than what you think it's gonna be, right? So.
What did Jordan say at all? She's like, this is the room of the most normal looking people I've ever seen in our industry.
Seriously.
Something like that. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, I think that's a compliment. I'm not sure. I remember when I first started in this industry and someone was like, you don't look like you belong here. And I was like, yeah. And I was pregnant, mind you, and had flats on, but I was like, I'm not sure how to take that. I really don't know, but thank you, I guess. So, anyway, side note. So
that's been a part of my marketing though. People are like, you just look normal. That's what I get for 10 years. The husbands will be like, I'll let my wife see you because you look normal. And I'm like, okay, so again,
okay, so the industry, it's funny to that. Like, I think our compass of what normal is a little bit off. And I just think this is like in society anyway today, right? Because you get to show whatever you want to. But there are so many new budding entrepreneurs and people who are like, oh, I could do this on my own. I'm just going to go ahead and start my own business. So not to burst anyone's bubble here, but like, what do you think are some of the common misconceptions about starting a thriving business in medical aesthetics?
Oh, well, I think if I can use an analogy, but if you're like a really good at, you're a plumber, it doesn't make you a good person to go start a plumbing business. Like you might be good at your technical side. You might be an excellent injector, but that does not make you an excellent leader who can, build a team and, that sort of thing. So I think you really have to get real with yourself. And I think for myself, I've had to get real with myself on that. Like, that's been a very big learning curve for me. It's like, just because you built this amazing injector business and things like that, it doesn't mean you're just going to walk right into MK and build this incredible scalable business. Like there are going to be some tools, there's going to be a learning curve in this. So, I think you have to, like I think if it's in your blood and I always say, if you have the support too, like I didn't do this on my own. And I'll be the first to say, I've had one of my gals has been with me 8 years. she's been through the thicks, the thin. She's helped me, the marketing. When I met Micah, the first day I met him on my blind date, he's like, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, okay, and so I think it's not, I think it's beautiful and I would never deter somebody, but it's like, do you have the discipline and are you able to, you have to have consistency. People, when I started MK Aesthetics, all the reps were like, oh my God, your business is growing so fast. Like people who didn't know me, they're like, what? And I'm like, you guys, I've been doing this for 7 years, building the foundation, right? The foundation, if you go look at a house, I always felt on Instagram, it's like, you could see the most beautiful home, but it's on quicksand. Like there's no foundation there. Or you see this beautiful home and you go inside and it's not that pretty, right? The energy is dull and whatever. So I was always like, I'm going to build slow and steady. I'm going to build a solid foundation so that when I did launch MK Aesthetics, it had the bones that it needed to be successful pretty fast versus me just, trying to keep up with the Joneses and, do something that I wasn't ready for. So that's something I'm really proud of myself on, is slow as smooth, smooth as steady, with that growth.
Yeah. I mean, congratulations on all of that. And I can definitely say, it's been a real joy watching you plan and build over the past year and then kind of reel yourself back to, oh, wait, there's all of this happening and going on. And we need this and this and this. And then to say, wait a minute, let's go deep first. And then we'll go further, and sort of that analogy of like pulling back, like to slingshot forward. You did, though, this year launch a membership program that was quite impressive. You massively exceeded your enrollment goals. Can you share a little bit about your strategy for that?
Yeah. So I think where I'm at with our member, which our goal was 200. I think we're almost at 400. So we're really proud of that. But what we did was we really listened to our customers over the years and we really catered to what our kind of overarching, we want to create a journey for you. Right. And so we're going to create this membership really tailored to our most valuable buyers and tailored to somebody who's like, it's kind of like they bank their money each month. That allows them and opens them up to, specials and, we're going to launch, special programs and they get that extra discount. I don't like the word discount, but extra perk on their top and things like that. So we kept it very simple, Kaylee. I got so caught up in researching everyone else's and I just like wanted to create something easy, understandable, and like a win-win for both of us. Right. And we did our due diligence on the business side, but we also I have always been, the customers first. How can we, cater to them? And so we've been really successful with it and people are really loving it. So I think we're like 4 months in. So yeah.
That's amazing. What do you think has created this kind of buy-in and loyalty from your patients?
We've built trust with them over the years, we've built trust with them through our marketing, through our, some of them have come in just that new client and they're like, I'm all in. I've watched you guys. And others have just been with us for so long. And like when we do our talk tracks around it with our staff, it's, we kind of say if this is going to be your journey, right? And you're doing this much talks every 4 months and you're, getting your laser treatments and then your retail, I really want to show you this program because this is going to be a great thing for you to sign up for. So it's laying it out for them. And once they understand it, they're kind of like, oh, I'm all in. Because I know it's like basically a loyalty program. I say, hey, if you're going to stay loyal to MK Aesthetics and you like coming here, this is a really great program for you. So I think it's just, we've built trust with people over the years. And again, we have that kind of, the depth to our client base that they were really asking for it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, it's just on brand to what you're saying of one, building the scaffolding and laying the foundation first. So it wasn't something you thought this membership's going to build the business. It's almost the inverse of loyalty, right? Instead of how do I keep patients loyal? How do I be loyal to my clients?
Yeah.
And so it's just a different mindset and approach. And the way that you're describing even how you're communicating and having that conversation is different than I think I hear a lot of it happening in general.
Mhm.
Um, do you think you launched at the right time? Would you have done it sooner, or do you think that this was the right timing for that?
So the thing is we ran thin on staffing for a period of time. And so I think we needed to get our practice manager in place, and we needed to get some of our front desk people, because the thing about this is it takes a lot of, there's coaching that happens at the front desk. And so and to launch it, you want to do it correctly, and you don't want to do it out of fear. You want to do it again out of like, this is really what MK is needing right now. So I didn't want to do it out of fear, because I want that residual, that, that consistency in revenue. We did it out of like a very different, out of like, let's do this for our customers. So honestly, I think it launched at the perfect time. Again, in my head, I'm like, everyone's ahead of me, but I got to do it the right way. So let's again, if I had advice to people starting out, it's like, make sure to get the right QuickBooks setting. Like, don't, like, our numbers have been wildly off because we didn't set it up correctly. So I have some very sound advice for people if you're starting out. Like, some of the tasks that you want to just push under the rug and kind of do half ass, you're like, no. Like, that is the most important thing to get dialed in, because otherwise 2 years later, you're trying to unwind
Yeah.
things. And yeah, and I think, I don't know if you guys have read the E-Myth, but it's like that 3-year entrepreneurial seizure is
Yeah.
like who I was, right? So
Got it. One of my.
just, yeah, trusting
Yeah.
that.
Well, right. It's like, it goes back to what you were saying about consistency and
Yeah,
discipline,
yeah.
because it's often the most unsexy things that
Mhm.
are going to create the stability and the viability and sustainability of the other things that you want to layer on top, right? And we lose that when we see what other people are doing, like, oh, her membership, or her, oh, this or that. And it's like, what's that saying? Like, overnight success takes 20 years or something like that. And all of a sudden it's like, boom, where'd she come from? And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I've been building, and I've been in lurking in under the rock for like, the last 20 years, just building, keeping my head down and do my thing, and then people start to notice all of a sudden. So there's a question in the chat I'll just jump to real quick. So it says, Morgan, you've gotten really good in your approach with team. What has been the most challenging aspect of developing team, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, so I think, so for, like I said, a long time, I was in the treatment room more and just kind of letting people do their thing. So I think for me, it was pulling back and actually meeting more with my team, and having more one-on-ones, and having hard conversations, you guys. Like, I love all of my team members, I do, but there are some things that probably are my fault that, like, we've had to have some real honest conversations. And so I think if you push those difficult conversations to the side, I always say you got to kind of go through it to get through it, versus kind of like tiptoeing around things. And so I think with my team, I've been much more of a confident leader. I think I've worked to spend more time with them, and like to get to know what they want. Like, how are they motivated? Like, I can't assume like that somebody's motivated by money, right? And so you have to, really, really individualize, sit down with people and mentor and support, and like be there for them. And I think people just are like, oh, it's a good culture, you care, and so I think that, yeah, building a team has been, that's been a lot of my mindset of like, did I do the right thing? Did I not, like, but kind of just trusting your gut. There was one of my hires where I was like, it was a gut thing, and now she's like soaring, but they're like, really? And I'm like, just trust me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
That is our superpower as women. I really do think if that we can get, that's one thing I will say. I think over time I've listened to myself better. I've just trusted that little voice and that instinct. And sometimes I have to go and be like, Shan, there's the little voice again. And then, or like I'll tell my team, like, just to acknowledge that it's there. But oh my gosh, like that is our superpower, to just have those gut instincts. And I love that you said that, because I think that holds us back a lot when we think that this is what the book says, or this is how, I can't hire until I have all these things and ducks in a row and la la la. And it's like, no, this is just, I instinctively know that this is going to be the right move and then I'm going to figure it out. Right. Just like if you love, like I love art and I don't know where I'm going to put it, but you could see my wallpaper, like this matched nothing in my office. I just loved it. I'm like, I need to have this, put it up. And if I hate it, I'll live with it all, but I'll make it work, but I just knew. So I think that is really a gift that you are listening to your gut, your instinct. Um, so let's get a little bit personal. What has your business meant for you? I know you have young girls, right? And so running this empire, being a busy working mom, also this year bringing your husband into the fold as well, right? What has this been like for your family?
Yeah, so I have a 3 and 4 year old little girl. I'll never forget I was pregnant with my second while the build out was happening at MK, and like, no wonder she's a high energy little girl. Mommy was a little stressed out at the time. But yeah, I think if anybody ever wanted to talk to me, bringing Micah in, leaving his full-time corporate job to work with MK, I knew was the right decision. It has allowed us more freedom and flexibility. I mean, when the girls are sick, it used to be a fight on who's going to stay home. And now it's, he's come into the company. We're really kind of trying to dissect what his role is and what my role is. But I just like look at these girls and I have never had the mom guilt truly, Kaylee, in the sense of like, I'm not there enough. Like I'm like, I am building something. These girls are seeing a mom who's truly living out her purpose. And so I feel like, I think we can leave, this can benefit them in the long run. But I think the most challenging and most beautiful thing is, working with Micah. He has different strengths than I have. But we're really working on building like a life first business. I think prior to kids and marriage, I use the word hustle. I was out every night networking. And now I'm just like I'm turning 40 soon. And I'm just like revisiting who I really am. And that old Morgan is still there. And I love people and I love the limelight and I love, all the things, but I actually really love my peace. I love being home. I actually like cooking a meal. And so I'm really starting to just like visit this new Morgan 4.0 and what does that look like in the summers for my kids? Like I actually would like a day off to take them places. But it's honestly a beautiful thing that I feel like has been designed by somebody bigger than myself. And so I don't want this to sound like I'm woo woo, but even knowing Mike, I'm like, we were meant to do this together. It's just what needs to happen. And I'm so grateful that this platform has allowed us to do this together and show our girls, that like, all of the things, they see it all, so.
Oh, they're living it. Trust
They're
me.
living it. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I've found too with the boys, like it's osmosis because they're just around it, when they know like all the podcasts you listen to and who's who and wait, but what about this? And I always say like my boys have like gotten just a by default MBA in entrepreneurship through just like being around, the things. So I think that's such a beautiful approach and way to look at being an entrepreneurial mother. When you said you were out hustling every night, my brain was going somewhere else and I was like, what is that?
Sorry.
But thank you for explaining. They were networking events. So at least we're
I mean, I just like everything I did, I was like, if I teach a fitness class, I was like, oh my God, I did it well, right? I wasn't like, I am a Medi spa injector and come see me. It was just like, I got to know people and organically you just say what you do, right? They're like, what? So I don't like the word hustle, but I was just like, I was very like determined to make it work.
No, I loved it. I love it. Hey, I mean, look, let's be honest. None of us got to where we are by not hustling. Like that's what it takes. That is the freaking truth. So
my analogy, I don't know if this will resonate with people, but I look at like a mountain and I'm like, I was the person who was like building the step at a time, like just, it was hard. And that next step was hard. And then it'd crumble and I'd fall back to the step before. And then I would slowly come up a little bit. And then like, and I felt like I would see people just take the elevator right to the top. And I'd be like, I'm like halfway up and I'm just working so hard. But if I had advice to anybody, like that's the way to go. Like that is where you're building that character, you're building that strength and endurance. And like, that's what's going to get you through the hard times because it's not always easy, right? But I think what I saw were the people who, what comes really quick can also go quick. And so I think, you know, what comes slow, and it's like, I just would encourage people to not try to fly to the top too quick, because even they say the Michael Jordans of the world, when they got everything they ever wanted, they were like, what's next? You know, I don't know if I'm fulfilled, right? So
Well, I always say that slow and steady wins the race. And
yeah.
it's not, sometimes it does, it takes discipline but it also takes like resourcing yourself with accountability. So someone can be like, just hold your horses a little bit, like slow the reins, because remember where we're really trying to go. And so I think that's really great advice. So speaking of advice, like let's just kind of in some, we've talked so much about how your journey from teaching fitness classes and recruiting people into your room at your gym to the 10-year build up to, creating this empire at MK, your mindset shifts and then transition from it being about you and what you were building to becoming this visionary leader and really infusing your vision for MK as a platform for other women and men, right, to live out their highest calling and their dream, which I think is so beautiful. And so I'm sure there are many people that are looking at you like, oh, wow, I want to be just like, I aspire to be just like Morgan. What advice would you give somebody who's maybe 5 or 7 years behind you, like where they are now?
I think you got to listen to your inner calling of like what really fills your cup. And like I can go back to when I was young and I just like loved, I was a people person, you know. And so I think you got to like get quiet. I think the best thing I did in my 20s was I went through a 2-year phase of like getting quiet, and I read The Untethered Soul, and I learned how to watch the thinker. And so I like learned that like I am not the swarm of my thoughts. I learned that I'm the person behind watching those. But the point of I always I can see what lights me up, and that like, you know, and following that, because you're the only person who's ever been on this earth to watch. Like I'm the only Morgan with this DNA, right? That who's going to be here, and nobody else is me. And so really hone in on what makes you different and what you really love, and don't do it because your mom and dad told you to do it, or, you know, like really find that identity of who you are, and that organically and naturally will guide you, right? But I also think too, if you're thinking of the business side, it is the discipline and it's the consistency and it's the learning to say no. If you're really building something great, like, you know, like I might not be able to go out all the time, or, you know, and do everything anymore, but I'm building something that's going to be a legacy, a long-term thing. And so I think staying true to who you are, putting in the blood, sweat, and the tears, taking risks. It's nothing in my path has been easy. Even leaving my Medi spot to start MK was the most traumatizing year of my life on how I was going to tell my boss. Thank you, God, they were amazing. But like, I took the risk, right? There's a lot of unknown being in our seats. But like, now that I took that risk, I now get to employ 8 amazing people who I now employ, like they have a job, right? And so I think just, you know, just get, I don't know, there's so much that goes into that, but I just think
I know.
staying true to yourself and if you have the discipline and the consistency, you will be successful no matter what. And your success does not look like somebody else's success at all. And that's a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. So Morgan, how can people follow you and keep in touch with you along the rest of your journey from?
Yeah. So I would say Instagram's the best. It's m.k.aesthetics. You know, stay tuned. There's some fun things that might happen as I continue to kind of like see what it is that the directions I want to go. But yeah, social media and our website, you know, I think that's it, right?
I have a feeling this is only the beginning. So yeah, I always say I'm popping my popcorn, watching it all unfold. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's just been like the quickest hour of conversation. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And it's such a pleasure having someone like you along this journey. So
Well, I want to say thank you to you, Kaylee. I think this is kind of like a dream come true in a way of like I love what you're doing, and I love how you're speaking to so many people. And I don't take it for granted that I got to be a part of this. So thank you.
Thanks, Morgan. All right. And thank you all, Academy ladies, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.